258-3399 or visit khansolicitors.com.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Good afternoon, good evening now. We're heading into the evening now, early evening. I hope you've enjoyed the weather out there. It doesn't seem to be very warm. The sunshine seems to have been hidden over the clouds. And wishing you all in best health, especially ahead of the event for court this Sunday. Then, if you want tickets for that, inshallah, we can send you as well, courtesy of Drive Time, free of charge. Just get in touch with me here in the show. Audible 142425 Our text number 0788855998786. Then, special performances from Hafiz Nasar Khan and also the Court Musketeers, which have just been in the studio, just left. And now, inshallah, we'll be talking about our next topic here on Drive Time, and that is with a very special guest as well from the Sheffield City Council as well. Inshallah, we will be talking to him about his upcoming fundraising and his efforts for the situation in Palestine, where they are raising funds to assist the people of Palestine. We've heard about many atrocities over the years. If the dispute has lasted, never seems to be getting any easy. Illegal settlements constantly being built, a lot of property, a lot of land, a lot of water issues. And we also want to hear from you guys as well. You want to join in with the topic of discussion, you can feel free to do so. Just jump on the lines. Audible 142425 which is the studio number, and also our text number here, which is 07885599786. Without any further delays then, let's go to our studio guest and let's give him a very warm welcome onto Drive Time. It's his first time onto our show, and inshallah we want to set a really good example for him. And so without any further delay, let's give him the greetings and blessings. Assalamu alaikum and a good evening to you, Councillor Neal Gibson.
Good evening, thank you for inviting me.
And Neal, it's absolutely awesome to have you here, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation to come on, especially to talk to us about the atrocities that are taking place in Palestine at this moment in time. Just before we touch upon the event you've organised and your efforts to campaign on behalf of the Palestinians, for our listeners and for our viewers on Facebook Live that are joining us as well, for them as well, just give us a bit of background information for which ward you're a councillor for, and some of the responsibilities you have within Sheffield City Council.
I was elected 5 years ago this May for the wonderful ward of Walkley, the hilliest ward in the city.
Yep.
Clings to the side of the hill. Being a councillor isn't always easy. There's some nice things, some things not so good. I deal with all sorts of problems from the people. I think I'm there to be the people's representative, speak up for the people, help them when I can. I attend lots of meetings with people in my community, listen to their problems, help with the problems, and try and do what I can to help make their lives better.
Fantastic. Neal, just in regards to on the council and stuff, various projects you've managed, you've worked on. This one of the fundraisers you've organised. Just a bit to start off with it. What's the need? What's the cause? That situation in Palestine has been going on for long periods of time, for parts of history. Just how come this has been brought up to this stage, and what's your reason of choosing this?
Well, I've always been a supporter of Palestine, and for as long as I can remember. But just in the last few years, the situation has got even worse. The government of Israel has taken more land from the Palestinians. It's in a constant battle to try and send out more settlements onto land which is owned by the Palestinians, which the Israeli government are claiming by putting illegal settlements on. They're taking the livelihood away from the Palestinians. They're bulldozing Palestinian olive groves. They're draining the water they're stopping water going to the Palestinians. It's a real situation. But when they started the bombing 2 years ago, that made the situation 10 times as worse. And so there's a group in Sheffield called Sheffield Labour Friends of Palestine, and we're there to try and support the rights of Palestinians, but we're running an event to raise money for medical aid for Palestinians, which is an international charity that supplies doctors, nurses, medicines into Palestine, and carries out really life-saving operations in Palestine, and brings doctors from all over the world to work in Palestine to support the Palestinians.
Is that one of the biggest needs then at this moment in time in Palestine, especially around medical staff? And this is that one of the biggest demands that is out there that is needed?
It is, because the infrastructure is so poor. You know, you can't rely on the electric, you can't rely on water running. It's a real issue. The hospitals were bombed and damaged. The Palestinians haven't got the money to rebuild their own hospitals, so they're very, very reliant on people outside the country supporting them. And Medical Aid for Palestinians is one of the major organisations. The French team, the French medical teams as well that are there, very involved. But Medical Aid for Palestinians is one of the big organisations, and it pours a lot of money in there. It's a charity, so it relies completely on donations from its supporters.
Right. Okay. So when is this fundraiser being held, and how can our wider audience, our listeners and our viewers that are joining us now, or how can they get involved with this?
It's next Friday at Sharrow Community Centre from 8 o'clock onwards, and we're putting on food, and there's a bar, and there's a local band called Man Bites Fridge that I've never heard of, but apparently they're very popular locally. They'll be appearing, and we'll be running a raffle, because it wouldn't be an event without a raffle, and we're looking for donations for the MAP.
For the MAP, which is the Medical Aid for Palestinians. Just how can people find out more about this charity in specific that you're helping to assist?
If they want to find out about MAP, it's map.org.uk, or they can write to me at fundraising@slfp.org.uk.
Right, fantastic. Talk about Labour Friends of Palestine then, and this group that you've got set up. Obviously other political parties are on there as well, and if other political parties have groups and they want listening right now, you can join in with us, because obviously this is a cross party, it's not a party political issue, it's one that affects all political parties that have been a part of this process. How far are the efforts going with this? Is it like fundraisers you have all the time? How are the topics progressing under this banner?
What we're hoping to do is take a trip out to Palestine in the autumn. The MP Paul Blomfield and a group of us from Sheffield to go out and actually see it for ourselves. I'm a great believer, if you're going to support charities, go and investigate, go and look, go and find out for yourself what's going on. I was relying on people who have been there, so we've met an awful lot of people who've been there, who've come to us and said, can you help? What can you do? So we said, well, we'd like to go and see ourselves. So we're hoping to take a group of 12 people from Sheffield to visit Palestine and the occupied territories in the autumn.
So in the autumn? In the autumn,
yeah.
So you're actually going out there
we
to see?
We are going out there to see it, yes.
Absolutely fantastic. So it seems like you're following through then. There will be some people out there that we're thinking, hold on a second, this Labour Friends of Palestine, it's always political issues, people get really political. You've seen some of the hate people come up with, some of the spew, the nonsense, the garbage, but inevitably they do make points such as, well, why can't this be done from a neutral platform? Is this just only available for certain political people, i.e. only political parties, for example the Labour Party members are allowed to attend, or is this being held to the wider community?
No, the fundraising event is open to anybody who wants to come. I'm happy to take money off anybody who wants to donate money to a charity. And
how much are the tickets that are being sold?
Tickets are £10 or £5.
Tickets of £10 or £5. And you've also got a Facebook page set up as well. Is there any details for that?
It's Sheffield Labour Friends of Palestine on Facebook.
Okay. And then this event that's been organised is fundraising for medical aid for Palestinians then.
Yes.
It's on the Facebook page. You can actually go and have a look at that. It's being held then, the date and time for it to be held.
I knew you were going to ask me the date. It's a week this Friday, whatever day it's
7th of April?
7th of April, that's it. Okay. Friday the 7th, 8 o'clock at the Sharrow Community Centre.
At the Sharrow Community Centre.
Just off Sharrow Lane. It's the old school at Sharrow.
It's the old school at Sharrow. So any other further information that people need, it is on Southview Road, S118. That's the postcode for it in part of Sheffield.
You're very organised.
I've got it up here now. I've just managed to find it. And just give people a bit of information out there regarding it. A fundraiser for medical aid for Palestinians then, and to support 2 people from Sheffield to visit Palestine this autumn. There will be food, music, drink, and the popular local band Man Bites Fridge, which will be playing. I've never heard of them, but inevitably neither has Neal. So it'll be interesting to go and have a look at it. And there's a magnificent raffle which people have talked about as well. Just a quick question, Neal. Just this goes on to the broader issue of the constant conflict between Israel and Palestine. Many people say there are still political avenues and political solutions inevitably of bringing about some sort of peace and some sort of order to that part of the chaotic world. Where do you stand on this? Is it obviously with you're part of this group, Labour Friends of Palestine, but inevitably, what has politicians done so far to help and aid this? Because it's been going on for as long as I can imagine. Is there any sort of hope at the end of the light or at the end of the tunnel that you see?
I think there's always hope. I mean, I grew up in Northern Ireland, and when I was growing up, it was before the current troubles started, but my grandparents told me about the troubles from 1916 to 1922 when the island was split, when there was a civil war then that people forget about, and then from 22 to 32 when it moved from being a free state into the Republic, and broke all relations with the UK completely. And then from 1969 up to just a few years ago when we had the full-scale civil war, and I never thought we'd have peace in Northern Ireland. I thought it was impossible to bring both sides together. But if the politicians want peace, they will bring peace, and I think it's the same in Palestine. I think if they want the peace, they will bring the peace.
People ask, like various envoys, Tony Blair's name gets mentioned a lot, and we're not talking about the war and move that aside, but talking about the Middle East peace envoy, which inevitably his title has been for a number of years since leaving office. Things have not really improved. Inevitably, people have seen things becoming much worse in that area of the world, and we've also seen things as illegal settlements being popping up, the chaos with water and buildings there that are being constantly knocked down and bombarded. Inevitably, where do we go from here? What kind of things more can people like yourselves do in positions of power, and people like our parliamentarians? You mentioned there Paul Blomfield, which is doing it. What are the parliamentarians doing at this moment in time?
The situation in Palestine is different from other conflicts, where it's one well-financed government that's running the war. It's well-financed. It's got a lot of weapons. It can do what it likes. It's got an army of conscripts that it can deploy it whenever and wherever it wants, and it's carrying out this war against the Palestinians. So I think what we need to do is tackle the Israeli government, and we need to stand up and say we're not putting up with it anymore. People in this country need to say to the Israelis government, we're not going to buy your food, we're not going to buy anything that you send us, we're not going to trade with you, we're not going to give you, and we're not going to sell arms to you. So our government needs to stop selling arms, but it also needs to stop selling arms to Saudi Arabia using in Yemen, needs to stop selling arms to the Israeli government. And the Americans need to put pressure on Israel as well. We all need to put pressure on Israel to bring them to the peace table. We did it before. It's been done twice in the past where the Americans have stepped in, but I think the Europeans have a role in it, we have a role in this country, and we need to put pressure on. And one of the pressures you put on a government is trade.
Trade is the interesting one you mentioned. We remember boycotts that being held in this country in various supermarkets, claiming not to buy certain produce which had a serial number on various batches. But inevitably, what happened, there was people finding a way around it. There were certain companies, Marks and Spencers, Tesco was another one, finding ways around it by putting on whether this was done, which settlement it was done in, so people could see whether it was from an illegal settlement area or it wasn't. But inevitably, it didn't have the desired impact, because inevitably still many times they've called for boycott on various goods, but inevitably things are still going as bad as they are. We've only had reports in a few weeks ago of another settlement that's been built. The United Nations seems to be doing very minimum. Just to the role of United Nations for a minute, do you think that's where the biggest problem is at the moment in time? Because inevitably they're going to be the ones that are the biggest stakeholders in this.
Well, I think the problem with the UN is that they are just a group of governments. So if the governments of the world decide to take action, then the UN will have some weight behind it. While the UN itself is only a mouthpiece for those governments, they can say what they like, but without the weight of the governments of the world behind them, they won't take action. They can't take action. I mean, on the issue of boycotts, I still feel guilty when I buy South African produce, because I boycotted South African produce for so many years during the apartheid years. I still have a guilt complex when I buy apples or wine that say South Africa in them. Okay. The issue with the Israeli produce is it's normally quite easy to spot it. Just check that it's a produce of Israel. If it's a produce of Palestine, it will be clearly marked as Palestinian produce. What the Israelis are now doing, though, is they are now buying produce from Palestine and labelling it as Israeli. So you may actually be boycotting some Palestine producers, but if it's from Palestine, it will be clearly marked from Palestine.
So
and
people
don't
can
forget, each month, at Nether Edge Market, there is Palestinian oil and other produce which is available, which is directly from Palestine and is sold at Nether Edge Market.
And Nether Edge Market?
Nether Edge Market. There's a stall there every month at Nether Edge Market that sells purely Palestinian produce. And that goes back to help fund the olive grove farmers. Right. And the other manufacturers.
So how can people come to this market? When is this held?
Nether Edge Market. Is it the last Saturday of each month? I would have to check, but it's every month.
That'd be interesting. Definitely, I'll try to see if I can get that information for tomorrow on Drive Time to give out to many of our listeners, because they already inquire, and every time we talk about Palestine, it keeps clocking up our messages here, because inevitably people are really concerned as to the situation, and people are saying that, well, hold on a second, all political parties are to blame here. The Labour Party is to very much to blame. People that have caused the wars in various countries and so responsible for some of the inevitably politicians like yourself trying to get to this person's question. Hopefully I can put it right. Is inevitably people grow really concerned when people like yourself come out, organise these wonderful events, reunite the community, get the money raised, and inevitably you want to go out there as well, which is all things that you can praise, but inevitably people say you can do much more behind closed doors, because inevitably this will be a closed door solution, as you said, governments getting together. Is there more that we can be doing within political parties to actually move this issue forward, so that inevitably the entire parliamentarians in Parliament will all stand up with this issue as well? Because inevitably issues like this person's put Palestine, Kashmir, he's thrown in there as well, and he's named Iraq and Afghanistan as various other areas of war and conflict. But inevitably, a Palestinian solution, a two-state solution, could be brought about very easily by people like ourselves, which are one of the biggest economies out there in the world. Also get behind this as well. Do you think we can do more with the government?
People like myself who are elected, before I even go into Walkley to ask the people of Walkley for support, I have to get support from my own party.
Okay.
So I have to be selected by my own party first. So that's the first election you have to win, and then you have to go and win the election of the people. So I listen to what people say. Okay. So what you do is you lobby your councillors and lobby your MPs, because they do listen to you, and enough people lobby hard and tell their councillors and their MPs what they want. The message does get through.
So is that what you would urge people? Because obviously certain people will be asking for some advice of what avenues they can explore. So your avenue of exploring or one of the available options is to keep writing to your councillors and MPs on this topic. If
you're in a political party, talk to your councillors, talk to your MPs. If you're not in a political party, you've got a councillor, you've got at least, in Sheffield, there are at least 3 councillors in your ward. You've got an MP, write to your councillors, write to your MP, ask them what they're doing about Palestine, ask them what they're doing to force the government into pushing Israel into negotiations and bringing it potentially back to the peace table.
Just to give you that in details again, then for the charity for this event that's been set up for those of you guys out there, it's been held on the 7th of April then, and it's at 7:30 all the way through to 11 o'clock, and it's going to be at the Old Sharrow Junior School, which is on Southview Road, S11 in Sheffield. Tickets are available at evenbright.co.uk, and it's £5 to £10 for tickets as well. It's been hosted by the Sheffield Labour Friends of Palestine, which is the political movement, but inevitably you can be from all political parties to join and attend that. So that's the Old Junior School, which is the primary school at this moment in time. We're going to the ad breaks. Just a quick one big question before we go, Neil. Just whenever we were on this radio station and so we talk about empowering the community and how to and what advice you would have for an issue that you would have in the community, and also what advice you would give to our generation. Obviously, it's knowing some of the responsibility that you get up to in the council. There are many other issues that we can talk to you about. However, we're trying to keep it very restricted. But inevitably, when you're seeing some of the protests that have been organised today outside the town hall, also outside the mosque, especially in regards to Westminster, and this idea of the Muslim community having to condemn the attacks and having to see it, you've seen some of the hatred on social media, some of the Twitter remarks. What do you want to say about that very briefly?
What I'd say is that it's what always shocks me is every time there's a so-called terrorist incident, the amount of hate that I see on Twitter and Facebook towards the Muslim community, it really upsets me. It's horrific, because There are terrorist attacks happening all the time. As I said before, I grew up in Northern Ireland. They were not Islamic terrorists. They were Catholic and Protestant terrorists, or Church of England terrorists. They were Christian terrorists. You know, a religion is not to blame. People are to blame for violence. What happened last week was horrific and disgusting, but he was a single person, and he was to blame, not his religion. And it's been quite moving since then, seeing how the community has responded. But I feel it's awful the way that the community feels it has to respond and always has to point out that they are condemning it. I don't see, you know, there was an incident in New York the other day where a white ex-soldier went out to kill black people. Now, he murdered one person before he was arrested, thankfully. But I didn't see the churches in America coming out to say they condemned Christian terrorism. I don't see why the Muslim community feels every time it has to condemn it. I would take it as granted, as read, that of course Muslim community condemns violence from wherever it comes, and we should all condemn violence from wherever it comes. But I would never label anybody who carries out violence in the name of religion. I would not condemn the rest of the religion. And I think it's appalling in this country the way the press and the media react.
Do you think that's there? We're just going to move on to this, press, the media, but inevitably some of the politicians as well, because inevitably some of this has been spewed out by people like Nigel Farage that have been on LBC Radio, various other platforms as well. And do you think the media plays a key role in this, which you've mentioned, but also the politicians? What do you think to them? Because some of them aren't helping the causes at this moment in time, especially in America. You've got a situation where people are calling for bans left, right and centre, bans on technology now, which he's managed to get in there and keep in there. We've followed pursuit of that as well to many from many Islamic countries, many Muslim predominantly countries can't bring in various forms of technology. Do you think that things are changing in the world towards pushing towards a far right agenda where things are even post Brexit? And I understand there's a big demonstration now taking place outside the Sheffield Town Hall, which is talking about the Article 50. What do you think to that anyway?
I think it's happened. I didn't want it to happen, but I'm not going to say this is the worst thing that's ever happened to the UK. It is one of the worst things, but it's happened, and I think we need to pick ourselves up and make the best of what we've got. But I'm very disappointed it's happened, because I think Europe and being together with Europe is the best thing. The UK is a small, insignificant island off the coast of Europe. And when I come from Ireland, we know we're from an island. We know we're small and insignificant. We have no doubt about that. But when it comes to Great Britain, the British seem to think because they used to have an empire and rule part of the world that they still do it. Well, we don't. We are a small island. We need to be part of Europe. I'm sorry we're leaving Europe, and I'm sorry it's a hard Brexit, and I'm hoping in the end the negotiation will mean it's not a hard Brexit. And I'm really concerned for the future of our young people who will not have the freedom to travel to Europe, who won't have the freedom to go and work wherever they want. And I'm glad I've got an Irish passport, because I'll be able to travel into Europe without any hindrance. I feel sorry for my fellow countrymen in England who will have to get a visa to go to Europe in future.
Right. So you got an Irish... so you get to avoid the entire channel. Absolutely fantastic. Isn't it?
On the issue of the ban, I think Trump is the worst thing that's ever happened to America, and I'm hoping that he's not going to be there very long, because I think the people are going to rise up against him. I hope they are. But his ban on travel is clearly anti-Muslim. I mean, it's indescribably awful what he's doing. It's just shocking, because most people in America are killed by Americans.
Most of the rhetoric, though, is being repeated, which is quite scary. And it's been repeated across Europe by Marine Le Pen, certain parties within Germany, within France. There is loud echoes across Europe now as well. Do you think moving into a post-Brexit era and as these negotiations are taking place, do you think inevitably you had that huge hate crime increase here within this country when we were going through Brexit and the vote? But inevitably, and after the results, just the hate crime just shot up 300% in like Rotherham. So inevitably, do you think now that's going to be a bigger concern? And is it not concern you more as a politician, knowing there are other politicians in this world that are now adopting that kind of policy to win the hearts and minds of people?
I'm very concerned about the rise of the right wing. I work very closely with the police. Hate crime is one of the issues I've been working with over the last 5 years with various minority groups. And I work closely with South Yorkshire Police. I'm very happy to say they are working very hard on it. But what it comes back to is people have to stand up for their rights. If you don't stand up and speak out, then the right will get their way. If people who are level-headed and independent and want a sort of country we've had up to now, which is welcoming and open and welcomes people from all over the world, then we have to fight for that. Because if we don't stand up and speak up for it, the right will come in and they will fill the vacuum. So don't sit back thinking it's all right. It is not all right. You have to get out. You have to get out in the streets. You have to protest. You have to support the politicians that you support. Talk to them. Ask them to stand up for your rights. Point out that your rights are being compromised. And once we're into Article 50, once we start to bring the laws back into the UK, we cannot let this government start to unpick the Human Rights Acts and unpick the freedoms that we fought for so long in this country.
On that point, we'll call it at the end. It's time for the ad breaks here at Iman FM. Let's go to the ad breaks, and inshallah, when we come back, we'll be speaking to a former councillor on Rotherham City Council in regards to some of the protests that have been held, to some of the demonstration that have been held, not in our name, they've called it. Inshallah, we'll be talking to Raoof of Tel Mama and also Qari Ismail Saab as well, of the Muslim chaplain of the University of Sheffield, and inshallah, we'll be getting his views on today as well. I want to thank you once again, Neal, for coming in, and here are 2 tickets for you for the fundraising dinner this Sunday as well. Really good, excellent meal and a fantastic opportunity to spend it away at charity as well. So take care then, and it's Allah Hafiz from me for now, and we'll be back in a few moments.
Iman FM. This is Iman FM. You are listening Iman FM 103.1 FM.
आज की शाम ये आपके नाम है आपकी तफन्नुन तबाह के लिए हल्की फुल्की गपशप लताइफ हैप्पी बर्थडे अदर की बात और मजीद सेगमेंट पेश किए जाते हैं ईमान एफएम पे आप समाअत करते हैं हर इतवार शाम 8 बजे
Khan Solicitors, experienced criminal defence lawyers in defending your rights. We can assist you get the best possible outcome if you're involved in any criminal matters, including murder, drug offences, sexual offences including grooming, terrorism, fraud and money laundering. We can provide free advice and assistance 24/7 at the police station. Call us on 0114 258 3399 at 351 Abbeydale Road, Sheffield. Visit us at khansolicitors.com. Over 20 years experience in defending your rights.
अरे शमसुद्दीन भाई यहाँ कहाँ घूम रहे हैं
भैया रॉडरम में कोई खाने का अच्छा जगह है
रॉडरम में उम्दा और लजीज खानों का वाहिद मरकज चौधरीज ओरिएंट एक्सप्रेस
अरे भैया तो टाइम जाया ना करो जल्दी करो भूख लग रहा है
देर न लाओ आज ही आओ ते फायदा उठाओ
Cater to impress Chowdhury's Orient Express Princess Street Rotherham telephone 01709 555527
हर कोई सज्जन मित्र बोले चौधरीज ओरिएंट दे पैगे रोले कुकड़ पाए दे गोश्त कढ़ाई आके खाओ होले होले
offers delivered in conjunction with the Iman presents an evening with UK's renowned artist Hafiz Nasar Khan. Live performance on Sunday 2nd of April 2017, 5:30 p.m. at Arooj Wedding Hall, Sheffield. A fundraising dinner not to be missed. For more info, please contact Haji Shabir Mughal on 07976 287730 or Haji Akhtar on 07866715483. Hope to see you all there to help court provide hope for orphans.
At iLet4U, we know that being a landlord can be a frustrating business, but it doesn't have to be. iLet4U can find you tenants in under a week. iLet4U, specialist in selective licensed properties.
अगर आप मकान किराए पे लगाना चाहते हैं तो हमारी खिदमत हासिल करें और घर बैठे किराया पाएं। iLet4U पर हम आपके घर को अपना घर समझकर देते हैं।
Start tenants today by contacting iLet4U, 60 Page Hall Road, Sheffield, 0114 327 2020.
मुअज़्ज़म अली शहीद वेलफेयर ट्रस्ट के ज़ेरे एहतमाम जेएलएम में कायम अस्पताल में पिछले 18 सालों से इलाज मुआलजा मुस्तहिक अफराद को फीसबिलिल्लाह फराहम कर रहा है गरीब खानदानों और यतीम बच्चों के लिए माली इमदाद दी जाती है
With your help we can save lives, educate and help reduce poverty.
आप अपनी ज़कात सदका और खैरात ट्रस्ट को देकर इस कार खैर में अपना हिस्सा डालें
For more info call on 0779 251 5561 or visit muslimtrust.org.uk
إعلان عاجل لسائقي سيارات الأجرة وسيارات الأجرة الخاصة وسيارات هاكني كاريج. مستر كومبنسيتر يدفع 2000 جنيه كتعويض لطالبي التعويض لسيارات الأجرة، سيارات البرستيج وسيارات الدفع الرباعي بسبب الحوادث. التعويض مضمون بنسبة 100%. خدمتنا متوفرة طيلة 24 ساعة على 7 أيام. اتصل بنا الآن على الهاتف رقم 0114-386-3386. التعويضات تنطبق على سيارات الأجرة فقط، كل ذلك وفقا للشروط والأحكام.
For the community, by the community, Iman FM, 103.1 FM.
Kashmir Orphans Relief Trust, in conjunction with Iman FM, presents an evening with UK's renowned Northern Nasheed artist Hafiz Nasir Khan. Live performance on Sunday, 2nd of April 2017, 5:30 p.m. at Arooj Wedding Hall, Sheffield. A fundraising dinner not to be missed. For more info, please contact Haji Shabir Mughal on 07976287730 or Haji Akhtar on 07866715483. Hope to see you all there to help court provide hope for orphans.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening, welcome back then. We are listening to the Drive Time Show on Iman FM. And you're listening to the Drive Time Show on Iman FM 103.1. Your voice, your choice. I'm your presenter, Nasar, Raoof. Inshallah, I'll be with you through to 6 o'clock then. Ahead of that event, court event, which we're really publicising now because we want to give a very big last push. There's only a few tickets left and we want to give them to as many people as possible. Get many of the community there. Inshallah, just finish off the show in the last half an hour then. Joined by our CEO of Iman FM, Mohammed Shabir Mughal Saab, which is joining me as well, my dear uncle. And also I'm joined again by our CEO, chairman of court, Akhtar Saab as well. Welcome both of them back. First of all, let's welcome my uncle into the show. Assalamu alaikum, uncle.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you? You okay?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. On an opportunity like today, we've heard from Hafiz Nasir Khan earlier on, Hafiz Anwar Zaidi, and various others from the court platform, Musketeers, if I may add. What is your thoughts, what's your feelings about what's happening so far and on Sunday as well?
Inshallah, this is going to be a court third event in Sheffield. Inshallah. And we had very successful events in the past, and we have very good support from the community in Lodge. Alhamdulillah, with their support, actually, the court is, the management is very happy with the Sheffield people and Rotherham people who are supporting them, and the majority of the people who visited, from this area, who they already visited the court complex in Jadikas. So that's something is unusual, because many people donate and give the charity money, and then they don't know where the money is gone. But alhamdulillah, with this there is an opportunity for anybody and everybody to come down and visit the court complex and see themselves,
तो आप जब पाकिस्तान गए थे तो आपको आपके साथ आप भी वहाँ पे गए थे, तो आपने फोटोग्राफ्स देखे थे वहाँ पे, वीडियो जो लगाई थी आपने वो भी देखे, वो भी अभी देख रहा था छोटी सी देर पहले. तो आपके दिल में क्या महसूस हुआ जब आपकी इसकी इतने साल हो गए यहाँ पे, अब जो कह रहे हैं ये थर्ड डिनर हो रहा है, ये चैरिटी डिनर हो रहा है शेफील्ड में संडे को, तो आपको क्या एक्सपीरियंस हुआ था, आपके दिल में क्या और या आपकी सोच में क्या आगे आप सोच रहे थे, कहाँ थे वो देखे उनके बच्चों को वहाँ पे जो पढ़ रहे, वो एजुकेशन कर रहे थे, और जो कॉम्प्लेक्स पूरा जो मिरपुर में जरिकस में बना हुआ है, तो उसके बारे में आपका क्या ख्याल है वो देख के?
जी इससे पहले कि मैं कॉम्प्लेक्स के बारे में बताऊं आपको, एक चीज़ सब यहाँ जो शेफील्ड और रादरम में रहने वाले हमारे मुसलमान बहन भाई हैं वो ये जानते हैं कि 2005 का जब अक्टूबर में ज़लज़ला आया तो तब से लेकर हम कोर्ट के साथ काम कर रहे हैं अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. और कुछ भी स्पोर्ट आती रही हम करते रहे लेकिन जो स्पोर्ट जब कॉम्प्लेक्स में मूव इन हुए जब बच्चों को जो मीरपुर शहर में रह रहे थे उनको कॉम्प्लेक्स में मूव किया गया लास्ट ईयर तो उस वक्त ज़रा कि ज़्यादा लोगों ने जाकर विज़िट किया तो मुझे भी मौका मिला गो कि उससे पहले भी मैं जाता रहा हूँ और मैं देखता रहा हूँ बल्कि जब इनको वो ज़मीन मिली थी पहाड़ थे तो उस वक्त भी मैंने देखी थी तो फिर उसके बाद जब पहाड़ों को काटा गया वो बलडोज़र लेके सारा कुछ वो भी मैंने देखा लेकिन आस्ता आस्ता जो डेवलपमेंट होती रही काम होता रहा तो अब जो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह कॉम्प्लेक्स जो है उसमें बच्चे आबाद हैं बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं एजुकेशन हासिल कर रहे हैं बल्कि मस्जिद जो खूबसूरत मस्जिद वहाँ पर बनी है उसमें बच्चों को बाकायदा एक सुबह दर्स दिया जाता है एक इवनिंग को दर्स दिया जाता है तो इस तरह मुख्तलिफ़ चीज़ें वहाँ पर हो रही हैं ख़ास तौर पे जो इस वक्त जो कॉम्प्लेक्स में जो डेवलपमेंट हो रही है वो है बच्चियों का जो हॉस्टल है और फिर बच्चों का हॉस्टल है जब ये दोनों मुकम्मल हो जाएंगे तो उसके बाद 1000 बच्चों की वहाँ पे बल्कि 1500 बच्चों की गुंजाइश हो जाएगी 1000 बच्चे तो वहाँ पे रहाइश हो जाएगी लेकिन 500 बच्चे जो हैं लोकल जो सराउंडिंग एरिया है उनको भी वहाँ मौका दिया जाएगा तो इस तरह तकरीबन 1500 बच्चे की वहाँ पे सहूलत हो जाएगी जो वहाँ पे एजुकेशन हासिल कर सकेंगे लेकिन ज़रूरत इस बात की है कि अब जिस स्टेज पे हैं इस को आगे बढ़ाना है हमें आगे लेकर चलना है तो इसी सिलसिले में हम दावत भी दे रहे हैं कुछ लोगों को कि हमारे साथ आएं और हमें सपोर्ट करें और ख़ास तौर पे जो इवेंट इतवार को हो रहा है उसके लिए टिकट जो हैं गो के टिकट 10 पाउंड का है लेकिन अगर कोई भी शख्स आना चाहता है तो वो आ सकते हैं और टिकट जो है अगर वो स्टूडियो में आएँ तो टिकट उनको फ्री देंगे हम अगर टिकट स्टूडियो में कोई भी आता है और फैमिली को कि चूँकि ये फैमिली इवेंट है और फैमिली को ही लेकर आएँ और बच्चों को ख़ास तौर पर लेकर आएँ क्योंकि बच्चे जो हैं वो हमारे बच्चे जो है हमारा फ्यूचर हैं और बच्चे जो हैं वो ज़्यादा अहमियत के हामिल होते हैं और जिस तरीके से बच्चे पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं और बच्चों के साथ उनका जो एक अट्रैक्शन होता है वो बहुत ज़रूरी है तो इसलिए बच्चों को लेकर आएँ और फैमिलीज़ आएँ ताकि फैमिलीज़ जो भी फैमिली आना चाहे वो ज़रूर आएँ और उसके लिए गो के 10 पाउंड टिकट है लेकिन आपको ईमान एफएम से फ्री में मिलेगा इंशाल्लाह टिकट
तो आपके साथ बैठे हुए हैं हमारे प्यारे भाई चौधरी अख्तर साहब भी उनसे भी बात करेंगे कि ये जो शबीर मुझे कह रहे हैं वो उनको मैं कह रहे हैं कि जो पहाड़ वो अब जो आपके दिल में तमन्ना थी को ख्वाहिश थी कि यहाँ पे वो कॉम्प्लेक्स होगा जैसे ऐसे फ्लोर के होंगे इतने ज़्यादा बच्चे होंगे और वो सब के जो वालदियत में नाम लिखा जाता है बच्चों के लिए तो उनके बारे में आपने पिछली बार भी यहाँ शेफील्ड में भी एको किए थे कि मेरा नाम लिखा जाता है उनको ये कभी महसूस नहीं होता बड़े होके कि उनके लिए कोई वालिद नहीं था या कोई उनके रिश्तेदार नहीं थे तो आप उनकी तौर पे सपोर्ट करते हैं तो ये जो ड्रीम या इंस्पिरेशन थी आपकी अब यहाँ वहाँ पे इम्प्लीमेंट कैसे हो रही है वो जैसे कि वहाँ बच्चे स्टडी हो रहे हैं आपको उनके साथ कनेक्शन कैसे होता है वो कैसे उनके साथ पढ़ाई में एजुकेशन में जो खाने पीने का सिलसिला है जो भी सिस्टम है यहाँ पे वो कैसे आप एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं उनके साथ रिलेशनशिप कैसे होता है
मैं मेरी अपनी एक ही औलाद है नासर भाई एक ही मेरी बेटी है जो माशाल्लाह अब 22 साल की होने वाली है और मैंने शायद 11 सालों में अपनी बेटी को इतना टाइम नहीं दिया जितना इन बच्चों को दिया है
जी
सही है अब अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मैं समझता हूँ कि इस साल में अब मार्च लगा हुआ है और मार्च में ये मेरा 7वां चक्कर था अभी मैं आया हूँ संडे को मुसलसल बच्चों के साथ इंटरेक्शन जो होती है फिर उनकी जो हिफाजत हो रही है जैसे स्कूल में है जैसे उनकी शाम को ट्यूशन्स होती हैं खाने का टाइम होता है नाश्ते का होता है दोपहर के खाने का टाइम होता है एक ऐसा भरपूर एक सिस्टम बना हुआ है इट्स लाइक अ हॉस्टल प्रॉपर इन साउथ एशिया एंड یہ جو بچے جیسے میں نے پہلے بھی آپ کو کئی بار ذکر کیا ہے کہ اکثر جو 1 یا 2 یا چند گھنٹوں کے بچے ہوتے ہیں لوگ باہر چھوڑ کر چلے جاتے ہیں کورٹ کے باہر چھوڑ کر چلے جاتے ہیں میں نے آج تک جاننے کی کوشش نہیں کی کہ واٹ از دا ریزن بیہائنڈ دس کیوں لوگ کیوں ایسا کرتے ہیں 100 وجوہات ہوں گی لیکن میں نے جاننے کی کوشش نہیں کی مجھے اتنا ضرور پتا ہے کہ اس میں اس بچی یا بچے کا کوئی قصور نہیں ہے پھر کیا ہے کہ اس بچی یا بچے کو میں نام دیتا ہوں اور ساتھ ساتھ میں اپنا نام دیتا ہوں آن دیٹ برتھ سرٹیفکیٹ اٹس گاٹ مائی نیم ایز اے فادر کیونکہ جب بڑے ہو کر ہم نہیں چاہ رہے کہ ان بچوں کو یہ معاشرہ یہ سوسائٹی اس نام سے پکارے جسے سن کر آپ کو اور مجھے تکلیف ہو so they've got an identity بے شک as they grow up one day they will find out what actually happened to them but my belief is میرا یقین ہے کہ ان کے اندر اتنی کانفیڈنس ہوگی کہ آپ اور ہم ان کے والدین ہیں ان کو کسی چیز کی کمی نہیں ہونے دیں گے یہ ضرور ہوگا کہ کیوں ایک سوال اس بچے میں اگر میں اس کی جگہ ہوں بڑا ہو کر جب میں 15 یا 20 سال کا ہوں میں سوال ضرور کروں اپنے آپ کو اور اپنے رب سے کہ کیوں مجھے کسی نے کیوں ادھر پھینکا کیوں چھوڑ کر چلے گئے لیکن اگر ہم اس بچی یا بچے کو ایسی تربیت دیں ایسی تعلیم دیں ایسی حفاظت کریں کہ کسی بھی بچے سے وہ کم نہ ہو وہ ضرور یہ احساس کرے گی میرا اور آپ کا کہ خدا نے ٹھیک ہے میری آزمائش تو آئی ہے لیکن خدا نے دیکھے نا ایک والدین کی جگہ مجھے سینکڑوں والدین دیے آپ اور میری شکل میں یہ ہوتا ہے یتیم ہونا گناہ نہیں ہے اور یتیم ہونا بڑی اعزاز کی بات ہے یہ نسبت ہمارے آقا کے ساتھ جڑی ہوئی ہے میں ہمیشہ یہ کہتا ہوں کیونکہ یہ نسبت جس کے ساتھ جڑی ہوئی ہے پھر ہم ان بچوں کو کیسا کسی کا اتروا ہوا پہنا سکتے ہیں کیسا کسی کا جھوٹا کھانا دے سکتے ہیں تو انشاءاللہ 1-2 اور بھی بڑی خبریں جو ہم اس دن اعلان کرنے والے ہیں ابھی ریسنٹلی 2-3 ایسے ایونٹس اور ایسے انسیڈنٹس ہوئے ہیں پاکستان میں which has changed the course of court Kashmir Orphans Relief Trust and the complex. It's a huge news that we want to give on the day. I don't want to disclose anything, but we have a very big news to give on the day on something that happened recently. Something the Prime Minister was there last month and it happened in his presence. You know, so that news we want to share it with our brothers and sisters who are the true owners, who are the true ambassadors. جو سفیر ہیں جو صحیح معنی میں سفیر ہیں وہ جو سننے والے وہ ہیں یہ ضروری نہیں کہ آپ پیسہ دیں آپ جب آتے ہیں نا کسی ایونٹ میں یا کہیں آتے ہیں آپ وقت دیتے ہیں وقت میں بڑی اہمیت رکھتے ہیں تو آجی صاحب کہہ رہے تھے کہ بہت کم ٹکٹ ہیں لیکن جتنے بھی ہوں اگر جتنے بھی لوگ آ جائیں ہم کوشش کریں گے تمام لوگوں کو اکوموڈیٹ کریں آپ آئیں اور دیکھیں جن لوگوں نے کورٹ کو پہلے نہیں دیکھا یا جانا نہیں ہے میں خاص طور ان کو دعوت دے رہا ہوں بالخصوص ان کو جو سالوں سے دے رہے اور سالوں سے کورٹ کا دعوت دے رہے ہیں دونوں لوگوں کو میں دعوت دے رہا ہوں کہ آپ آئیں ایک تو کورٹ کا پروگرس دیکھیں دوسرا دیکھیں کہ کورٹ ہے کیا یہ وہ کورٹ نہیں ہے جو ہم پہنتے ہیں یہ وہ کورٹ نہیں ہے جس کو عدالت کہتے ہیں یا لوگوں کو سزا یا پھانسی دی جاتی ہے یہ وہ کورٹ ہے
کورٹ کے ایونٹ کو جو اس اتوار کو ہو رہا ہے اور اس کے لیے ایمان ایف ایم سے آپ اپنے ٹکٹس جو ہیں وہ لے سکتے ہیں اور جس طرح کہ بتایا کہ ایک ٹکٹ کی جو کاسٹ 10 پاؤنڈ ہے لیکن آپ اگر یہاں سے لیں گے تو آپ کو فری میں دیے جائیں گے اور پوری فیملی کو آپ لے کر آئیں اور ہمارے ساتھ جوائن ہوں ضرور
Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Uncle, for your kind sentiments as well. And I'm sure our listeners have found that very educational out there. And the one thing that really gets to me is the fact that in the Valdiyat, the name that goes down on our birth certificate is not of an orphan, not of anything else, but it is of the chairman of court himself as well. We're going to have a quick swap around of chairs. Joining me in the studio then is are two very active personalities within our community. One is Raoof Saab of Tell Mama, and also joining us is Ifzal Saab as well, who was on the show yesterday. Let's go to our first guest, and we've not got long to go, but inshallah we did want to give him some time to talk about the events today, and especially some of the efforts that have been going on. First of all, assalamu alaikum to you, Raoof Saab.
Wa alaikum salam, Nasar, how are you?
Jazakallah. Thank you very much for coming in, and thank you very much for your patience, my dear brother. And also joining us is Ifzal Bhai as well. Irzal Bhai, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Maroof, talking about today, some of the protests that are being held.
No, not protests. They weren't protests.
The demonstrations.
No, they weren't demonstrations. They were remembrance events.
Remembrance.
Big difference in
Is
your
this
description.
vigils?
Yes.
Achha. So vigils that were being held, and one was being held outside the Wolseley Road Masjid, and the second one was in town.
Background to these events, first of all, we've been doing some work with the Metropolitan Police Scotland Yard in relation to this Wednesday, today being 7 days since the attack took place on Westminster Bridge and outside in Westminster Palace.
Yes.
And the conversation that we had, the overwhelming support from members who were working with the Met and Scotland Yard was to hold a 7-day remembrance ceremony and a minute's silence. So this was a event to remember those that were killed on that day by that individual. So that's what it was. So it wasn't a demonstration or a protest. It was purely a gesture to demonstrate that we stand together as a community, regardless of what your background, ethnicity, religion is. And the 1 minute silence was actually held. We had two events. We're very grateful, first of all, to Medina Mosque on Wolseley Road for hosting one of those events. The second event was hosted by the Lord Mayor of Sheffield, Councillor Denise Fox, and we're very grateful for her hosting it. My job was to help support communities and organisations to put on these events. So we've had one in Manchester, in Birmingham, in Leicester, London and Leeds. So there's been a number of events around the country, all of them, mashallah, been very successful, where communities came together and stood together and actually demonstrated that no matter what takes place in London or other places which is designed to divide communities, actually communities came together today, to remember those that were killed, but also to demonstrate that unity is at play here in this British islands, as opposed to division, which is what the terrorists tried to create.
Condemnation, is that is there need for communities to turn up in these numbers to condemn atrocities like this? Because inevitably no religion or no faith agrees with violence or extremism or terrorism. So inevitably, why does the Muslim community feel as though it needs to come into the front of the platforms constantly and condemn? What's your views on that?
All communities should condemn what took place, and the Muslim community is part and parcel of British society, so they condemn along with everybody else. Today, what you saw outside the Medina Mosque, people taking charge of their own lives, speaking for themselves, not letting people vex an opinion, which is actually contrary to what the Muslims believe. Ibzaz, who's with me here, he helped coordinate that event at the Medina Mosque. We're very grateful to the mosque committee there and the Imam for coming out and holding the event in public, in the car park, as opposed to holding inside. So people who were passing by were able to see that, look, we are part and parcel of this society, this community, and we condemn the actions which are against people. We support those actions which would be in support of people. But actually, this was an action which we needed to condemn, and everybody should condemn. Equally, when we did the event outside the town hall with the Lord Mayor, that was a more somber moment. There was a minute's silence. Representatives from the churches and the mosques spoke there. The Lord Lieutenant was there. The Lord Mayor was there. It was a civic ceremony to demonstrate unity of our community, and that's the point that we need to do. So whenever something of this nature happens, we should all condemn it. Anybody who says we shouldn't, regardless of who it is, we condemned it when there was an attack on the mosque in Canada. We condemn it when the individual who committed the crime in Norway, when he went onto the island, Anders Breivik, committed those crimes. We condemn them. Yes, there are issues with the media and the way they report these issues, but as good community citizens, we condemn all acts of terrorism and violence which is designed to divide communities.
Talking to also, you brought in here with yourself Irzal Bhai as well, one of the organisers, as you say, you've assisted him in organising this event, and alhamdulillah he was here yesterday as well. How did the event go then, in your opinion? Did you get the numbers, did you get the support behind?
The event went very successfully. We got all the community leaders that we needed there. We got the Imam there, we had Raoof up there, we had the police there, we had the media there. So I think what we wanted, I think we got more. And the message went out very strongly to the terrorists. The message went out very clearly to the public of England, to Britain, and to, I think, communities across the world. Because I got some good feedback from across the world.
Mashallah,
and it went very successfully. And like Raoof said, I think we need to condemn any sort of attack, especially when it happens in Britain. Whichever.
Talk about condemning attacks, Maroof. I'm sorry, I've got to play the devil's advocate here, but inevitably it has to be said and it has to be questioned along them lines. But inevitably there are members of the community that are sat at home wondering, well, hold on a second, talking about condemning and condemning as Muslims, condemning as human beings, we should condemn all attacks. And you've mentioned some people's names that are non-believers, they
were believers, but they believed in something different. Still committed acts of terrorism.
Okay. But when you hear about a Christian person condemning an attack, like the IRA attacks here or even on Westminster. In fact, we saw the many pictures that are being highlighted today in the 7-day anniversary of the attack. There was also other ones that are being flying about as well from the IRA. But you never saw the Christian community across the world coming out and saying, well, hold on a second, we condemn this is not in our name, this person's not in our religion. So why does the Muslim community feel as though it needs to do that? Is it because they feel a certain amount of guilt?
No, I think people are getting confused with the issue of condemnation and apologising. Nobody has to apologise for anything that took place here, because I didn't do it, you didn't do it, if Zal didn't do it, the Muslims around the world didn't do it. These were the actions of one individual. So there's nothing to absolutely apologise about. Barbarism, which was designed to inflict maximum hate. Remember, terrorism is about terror. The product of death and kill is actually one part of that aspect of terrorism. The next part, the biggest part, is to terrorise communities. This is the reason why they pick high-value targets, is to terrorise people across the world. So the way the media reports some of these issues is what people, I think, are talking about. There isn't generic, fair coverage when it comes to mainstream media of those types of attacks. Now, these individuals from ISIS, whoever they may be from, they commit a crime on a Western soil. So, for example, here in London, the media condemns people change the colours of the Eiffel Tower or whatever. But those same people are killing people in Turkey, in Pakistan, elsewhere. And let me say to you that 75% of terrorist attacks which have resulted in fatalities are actually in Muslim countries, and Muslims have been killed, yes? So what we're saying here is, yes, there needs to be some fairness in reporting, but actually the challenge for us and the fairness aspect of this is that we should condemn as human beings. There's nothing wrong in condemning. We shouldn't apologise, but we should condemn any act of terrorism that takes place, no matter where it is in the world. And what we shouldn't do is bloat about, well, there wasn't fair coverage on this side, it needs to be on this side. It's the right thing to do, and I think if it's the right thing to do, we should do it.
Absolutely fantastic. Zalbai, just finally for a moment as well, just one more minute before we go to the end breaks, and that's it, because the two presenters outside are ready to go and I'm going to get really fired in a minute. But just finally sum up in your words as well, some of the things that you found today about the event, and some of the things, the good aspects of the vigils that were held, both at the town hall and your vigil outside the Medina Masjid.
The unity that is never going to divide us. That was the main core issue, and I think everyone took it on very well, and they all praised it. Everybody was very happy. We were all there. There was people from all over the faiths, all over religion. Everyone was there, and it was a great turnout, and I think it was a very, very big success, and I think we need to carry on doing this hard work.
Inshallah, that's the end of the Drive Time show, and I'm sorry it's gone on a bit, but Mohammed Shafaqat and I just claimed are kicking me off my seat now. So alhamdulillah, let's go to the ad breaks, and inshallah as soon as they come back they will